Great. So thank you all for joining us. I think I know everybody on the call, which is awesome after 19 or so months on the job here at Mary Baldwin. I'm Chuck Davis, the Vice President for University Advancement, and we just thank you all for joining us tonight. It's a real pleasure to have you with us. This is part of a long series that we have done with our Office of Alumni Engagement over the past 12, 14 months. I feel like we've been in the pandemic forever, but it has been a really wonderful way to engage with our graduates where you are. It's inexpensive, it's easy, and it provides a wonderful opportunity to come back to Mary Baldwin, if you will, through the wonder of Zoom. And we're just delighted that each of you have taken time to join us today. And we're always thankful for your support and kindness toward your alma mater. It's a real pleasure to introduce Dr. Usher today. She's just freaking awesome. I could probably just stop right there and that would be it. But there is more to her than awesomeness. She has been at Mary Baldwin, as many of you know, for many years, since 2002, when she joined the university, then college, as a professor in sociology. She served as academic director of the first year college experience here, associate dean, now associate provost. And with the founding of the Mary Baldwin College for Women, as a part of the university's repositioning a few years ago, she has become dean of that very important and critical part of our university. She's very committed to women-centric education as a product of a all-women's college herself, Converse College. And she has graduate degrees in sociology and medical sociology from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And she is an awesome mom. She has a wonderful story. I don't know if she'll tell you, we've seen a little bit of it this evening as these lovely children have come into the space. But what a gift she is to our students. What a gift she is to our female students in particular, really, but to the whole university community. So it's really a delight to have her with us tonight. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Usher. Thank you.
Wow, Chuck, thank you so much. I'm red. You can't tell because of the coloring on my camera, but thank you. I appreciate that introduction so very much. And I'm so excited to be here. Thanks to all of you who joined us this evening. If there's one thing that I absolutely love to talk about in absolutely any location with any platform, which is one of the words that I've learned how to use over the last 15 months, it is the Women's College and the value of women-centered education. So I'm so happy to be here with you this evening and happy to talk to you about the program. And I'll put this at the top just to get it out of the way, because there probably will be people coming through here. What Chuck has mentioned is probably my 7 sons who are in my home right now running around like crazy fools. And 4 of them are my biological sons, and 3 of them are my foster sons. And we are a household full of boys, and always have been. I also have 2 stepsons. So I have 9 young men. And that makes, honestly, my experience with the Women's College that much more special and valuable and wonderful. And it also has affected my approach to our transition to a coeducational institution, which I may talk about that a little bit later. It was a hard transition for a lot of folks, and it was a transition for all of us. And I know that you all know that, but having these boys in my life and well, I'll talk about that in a little bit, the transition piece. So what I would like to do is give you all sort of an overview of how we came to where we are right now with our current Women's College and the Women's College programming. And some of you already know this, some of you have heard it before, but I don't think the majority of you have the sort of the formality of the creation and the background of the creation of the new Women's College. So I'm going to back us up a few years to 2017, 2018, when Dr. Fox charged a group of faculty and staff and students to consider how we maintain a women-centered focus on a campus that is moving to a coeducational. This is when we were developing our university college programs. How we maintain our women-centered focus and our women-centered education when we're moving towards bringing men onto campus. So we got several people together, and we had a year-long conversation about the value of women's education and the value of various parts of our programming to women's education, and what we knew we needed to be able to maintain moving forward into coeducation, a coeducational, residential campus, what we knew we needed to maintain in order to continue our legacy as a women serving institution. And every single constituent on campus was behind that initiative. There was never, ever a question of how or if, well, there was a question of how. There was never a question of if we were going to continue a women's college. There were faculty meetings, there were staff meetings, there were conversations with our students, with our alumni about how other institutions have managed to transition to coeducational and maintain, or most often not maintain, focus on women's leadership and women's education, and what we needed to think about in advance in order to avoid some of the mistakes and some of the problems that other institutions had faced. So that was a really big part of our planning process. Here they come. Hey guys, I'm gonna mute him. Hang on, I'm gonna mute him. Daddy. Okay. So Jacob, ask Daddy. Okay. Daddy has disappeared. So just as this committee was sort of coalescing a year's worth of information and research and study and conversation, Dr. Ty Buckman came onto the scene. And Ty saw what we were doing and saw the legacy of the institution. And he said, I'm the champion for this. We have to move this forward. I will be the voice of the need for the women's college and the development of the women's college at the VP level, and make sure that our alumni are informed, that our board is informed, and that everyone knows that this is a priority. So he came into the picture, and he really helped to give the initiative that higher level administrative boost that I think made everyone else at the institution stand, including the students. And Caitlyn, you were here during that time. So including the students say, oh, we are doing this. We are going co-ed, and we are maintaining our women-centered focus and our women-centered leadership and our education and our programming and our traditions and all of these things that are so valuable for the development of women and for the development of women in the community. So I'm going to quicken it up a little bit because I want you guys to have plenty of opportunity to ask questions. So out of all of that conversation and out of Dr. Buckman's support, we designed the new Mary Baldwin College for Women. It has 5 columns, we call them. So 5 areas of distinction. The first one is a distinctive first-year experience, which is the most transformational introduction to women-centered education and the value of women-centered leadership for our students. From orientation week, when new students move onto campus, they are really, I mean, we have them come in early, so we have extra days with our women's college students before the whole university orientation begins. So from the very beginning, they're really inundated with conversation, brainstorming amongst themselves even, and learning about women's empowerment, women's voices, why we need to focus on women's empowerment and women's voices. The majority of women who choose the women's college, choose to come in through that portal into the larger university, already know the value of women's voices and women's leadership and women's education. We're not selling them anything. They know it, they want it, they know what type of experience they want to have in college. and they join us because we're offering them that type of experience. It is not the same type of experience that one would have at a single sex institution. We don't pretend that it is. We don't market it as such. We don't talk about it in that way at all. They know that that's not what we have here. And in fact, that understanding and awareness changed the way we recruit students changed the way we target and recruit students for the Women's College, where rather than continuing to focus on high school women who indicate an interest in single sex education, we target women who indicate an interest in women's leadership. And that has made all the difference in our recruitment strategies. So I don't know if that's something that we talk about at our get-togethers, the actual recruitment piece of it, but that was a tremendous change in the way that we marketed and decided, that we needed to focus on what we're actually doing. And we knew from the beginning that we're not the same as a single sex institution once we bring men residentially onto campus. And so we can't consider even for a moment that women who want that focus would be happy necessarily at Mary Baldwin. Now, we have had a lot of women come into the Women's College without realizing that we have gone co-ed and that we have residential men, and they have stayed with us because of what the Women's College does offer them and because of the experience that they have. So distinctive first year experience, we load them up with community, with belonging, with empowerment. We have special activities and service activities during orientation week. And they all live together. So all of our incoming students live in McClung, which is our flagship dorm. And I think most of you probably know that McClung is the residence hall that is built around Brick House, which is where Mary Julia and Agnes McClung literally lived when they were here on this campus. So it's a beautiful piece of history. We have students every year who live in Mary Julia Baldwin's actual room. So that's a fantastic sort of carrot for students to get in early and join us early on. So having the whole, well, it's not, yes, sometimes it's the entire incoming Women's College class, sometimes it's not. It depends on the numbers, of course. McClung holds 54 beds. So 54 incoming MBCW students can live in McClung. The PEG program is still a part of the Women's College. So the PEG students who are part of the Women's College live in the PEG residence hall, and VWIL is still a part of the Women's College. So of course the VWIL students all live together as well. They live in Cable House. So 3 different groups of students who are classified under the College for Women heading, and they all live in their very specific affinity-based communities, which is really important for the programming that we have, because our programming is not academic. So we don't require women's studies courses for our students. We could, we chose not to. I encourage all of my students to take women's studies courses and gender-focused courses. And of course, our general education curriculum requires that all students take at least one gender studies course. I encourage them to take more, but it's not a requirement for membership in the program. So our first year experience includes a lot of activities. They're all co-curricular, extracurricular activities. They are both educational and social. Part of our first year experience is our Big Sis Little Sis program, which is also a part of one of the other columns, that's mentorship. So one of the 5 columns is mentorship opportunities. And what we have launched so far is the student to student, the peer mentorship opportunities in the Women's College. So we brought back Bigs and Littles, and we brought back Peanut Week, which is the week of, it's a little bit different from what it used to be, but it's the week that our big sisters sort of shower our little sisters with secret surprise little gifts and motivational things outside of their residence halls in the morning, outside of their doors every morning. And it culminates with the reveal of who the big sister is. And then there's a party and they all get together and they get to know each other better. And It's really fantastic. So we've done that twice now. This will be our third year running that program, and it's just beautiful. I can't, the students plan it. They plan a theme, they plan t-shirts, they plan the gifts, they plan, it's sort of like a spirit week. They plan what the various days in the week are going to look like. And then they plan the reveal outside of Grafton on the terrace there. So it's really a beautiful event, and it really brings them together, and it creates that level of community that we really, of women, that we really want to be able to expose them to very early in their college careers. We know, as a sociologist, and just having been associated with the women's college of one or another, my own college, and then my 20 years here at Mary Baldwin for my entire life, practically, we know that women are competitive with each other, more so than men statistically. So women, you know, women say things like, especially these college age women, say things on entry like, well, I don't really have girlfriends. Most of my friends are boys. I hang out with the guys. I hung out with the guys. I don't really get along with other girls. That's a leadership trait that a lot of our women have coming in to college. It always has been for Mary Baldwin. And I have had these conversations with my students for 20 years about how, about socialization, and how they've grown to believe that women have to compete with each other, and that's why you don't get along with them, or the leadership styles conflict with each other. Women who choose a women-centered experience have stronger leadership personas than women who don't choose that type of experience. And sometimes they clash with each other. So a large part of our first year experience is showing our young women how to value themselves as women in a community of women. So people ask often, what does it mean? What does women's empowerment mean? What are you doing? What does that mean at Mary Baldwin? That means valuing yourself and your peers and your colleagues as a woman in today's environment, and as a member of the community of women who also value the same sorts of things. One of the things that our first class of new women's college students decided, we give a lot of the design of the program over to the students each year. One of the decisions that they made very early on, and it's an important one, is that the women's college is not an exclusive club. It's not a sorority. It's not an affinity group that's exclusive, that has an application fee, that has, that you have to show your women's college pass at the door to get into our events. They decided that they wanted the women's college to be educational for the larger community. They recognized very quickly that all of the women who join the women's college are already there. They already know and understand the value, as I said earlier, and they want to be able to be a voice of that and spread that and educate other women on campus, as well as the men on campus, as well as the larger community. And that's where the value in being a member of the women's college is. There's community-based value in being with like-minded folks, but there's that more proactive kind of agency in being able to deliver that value out into the larger community. And that's how they approach all of the programming. That's how they approach all of their plans. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely wonderful. It was a surprise to me. It shouldn't have been, being here for as long as I have, and understanding the group dynamics through my academic lens. It shouldn't have been a surprise, but it was a surprise, a very pleasant surprise. So I love that part of our program. I've mentioned also that we do community service type of work during orientation. That is a focus throughout students' time here at Mary Baldwin, and the Women's College focuses on service to women and girls. So we have a couple of different programs that we have partnerships with. The primary one is that you may have heard about in conversation about the Women's College is the Be the Girl program. And a lot of people don't like the name of that until they know what it is, because we don't call our students girls, they're women. we're not talking about our students when we say girls. The girls that we see are elementary school girls. So the See the Girl program is a partnership with a nonprofit in Florida, actually, that works with college age mentors of elementary school girls in the prison pipeline. Okay, so girls who have been elementary age girls who have been identified through social services, through school counselors, through their own families for whatever reason, to be at risk. Girls who have behavior problems, issues, girls who have high rates of detention or suspension, those kinds of things, girls who are in poverty, those girls have the opportunity to join the See the Girl program, and they get a mentor. The college mentor is trained in empowering women and girls. What we did with our partnership is work with the agency, the nonprofit down in Florida, to recreate their empowerment training program for our freshmen, for our first year students. So there is a retreat that our students attend at the beginning of the year where they receive empowerment, women's empowerment training. And it's that how to listen, how to see, really see, how to understand, how to connect with your community of women and how to support each other, that type of community and empowerment building. And then, so they get that. And then if later on they want to be mentors to local girls in the elementary schools, there's a second half of the program that they can go through. There's a course they can take through our social work department to become trained as mentors for these elementary school girls. So that's our first partnership. Our second partnership is with Girls on the Run, which is a national organization. A lot of folks are familiar with it. Because we have See the Girl in all of our elementary schools, it's in all of the Stanton elementary schools, we decided for Girls on the Run, we would hit the middle schools. So we designed a class last year, a PE class, and the middle school cross country coach teaches it. Our students sign up for the class and they go over to the middle school twice a week and they run with middle school girls. There's a curriculum that our students learn and our students teach that curriculum to the girls. And then they run and they prepare for a 5K. So we love that program. We started that program last spring and we didn't get to do the 5K because the schools closed, but we will. And then the program didn't run at all this year. The schools didn't, local middle school didn't run athletics. So we're hoping that we can pick that back up next year. We also work with Girl Scouts. So we have a campus Girl Scouts organization. It's an adult volunteer organization through the larger Girl Scouts. You don't have to have been a Girl Scout to be involved. You don't have to be female to be involved. Anyone can be involved in it. But it's called Campus Girl Scouts because it supports local Girl Scout troops. So those are the three primary partnerships that we've developed since we've launched the new women's college. We also work with the local domestic abuse shelter that serves women and children. And we also follow the state. The governor has a group that focuses on women equity for women and girls in the state of Virginia. So we follow those newsletters. We have discussions and meetings about what's happening in the local community as well as in the state of Virginia. And some of our students, of course, take that interest back home when they're coming in from outside Virginia. And we have quite a few students who join the women's college from other states. So that's really exciting as well. So that's our distinctive first year experience, our mentorship program, that piece that we've launched already, our service to women and girls. We also have our amazing Women's Leadership Symposium that we have now run twice. The first year was in person and it was absolutely phenomenal. Liz Shupe is nodding her head because she was there. And I can't see everyone. So there may be other people nodding their heads who were also there, but I have the skinny thing on my screen. I can only see a couple of you right now. The symposium brings in, it's a 2-day symposium. It brings in speakers focused on women's issues. Primarily for the last 2 symposia, they have been focused on career and business for women, options and opportunities and challenges and networking and the value of networking and of mentoring and those sorts of things. So the symposium ties into, of course, the rest of the work that we're doing. So we have workshops, we have activities, lectures, meet and greets. We have lots of different things that happen over those 2 days, and we have a big banquet and a wonderful speaker who we bring in from off campus. The second year that we ran the symposium, we had to cancel it last spring, and then we ran it this past fall as a hybrid program where we had students on campus in attendance. And then we had, because it's for students as well as our alumni, it's for everyone, it's for community members as well. We had students and a couple of community members on campus, and then we had alumni and community members online. So we ran everything live virtually, and we were able to bring in more folks that way. So that was a really good option for us. I don't know if folks remember the original intent for last year was to have a homecoming and combine reunion and the symposium. And we weren't able to do that because of the pandemic. And now we have sort of separated them back out from each other, and which I think is going to be fantastic because that just gives us more opportunities to come together. And we're really looking forward to moving it back to the spring for the 21-22 school year. So that's a huge event that actually really attracts a lot of our students. And we also bring in prospective students for that. So when we have students who have shown interest in the Women's College, who are communicating with admissions, one of the pieces of outreach that we do is to invite those students to come and experience that symposium. It's really a lot of fun. And then we have a leadership portfolio. That's the 5th column of the Women's College programming. And the leadership portfolio is not an uncommon tool in higher education. It typically begins the junior year, where students have really gone through all of their general education in other institutions, where students have gone through all of their general education programming, they're into their majors, they're doing their professional seminars, that sort of thing. And then they start to develop a leadership portfolio, maybe through LinkedIn or a Handshake or something like that, so that they can have, so that they can more easily build their resume when it's time for them to go out there into the professional world. Our leadership portfolio starts their first year. So that's the difference with ours. And it's an opportunity for students to better learn and understand, and more quickly learn and understand the value of their experiences here at Mary Baldwin and their experiences in the Women's College. Opportunity to pull all of that together, to have professional oversight of that. We work with the Vantage Point for personal and professional development for that oversight, and we have workshops and networking opportunities and things like that for our students as well through the Vantage Point partnership. One thing that a lot of folks don't know about is our leadership council. So it's not just me and a bunch of students making these plans. We have a leadership council that's made up of a faculty representative from each of our 5 colleges, 2 or 3 staff members. We like to keep it at 3. Sometimes it's 2, depends on which offices are able to attend the meetings, basically. And then students from each class level. So 4 students, and we meet monthly to talk about recruitment, to talk about programming, to talk about the future, to talk about challenges, and to remind ourselves of the support and the value behind what we're doing here. Because it can, when you're in the midst of a school year and it's time for exams and the students are too busy to respond to you, and they're not wearing their MBCW t-shirts every day anymore, it can get a little bit disheartening until you bring that conversation back up again and you say, hey, talk to me about women's leadership. Let's bring these students together. Let's have a virtual sewing circle or a tea, or let's bring some of our students to an alumni event, or let's put a PowerPoint together. And then the students, they flock to, it's like a magnet. Every time we bring up new programming during any part of the semester, they want to be involved, they love it, and it reminds them of the value of this community that they're a part of and that they're building. So they're able to come back, they're able to come back into the fold of that love and that empowerment learning and that focus, and let go of some of the stressors of their university life here at Mary Baldwin. So it's really very powerful, and I'm so thrilled to be a part of it. I think that's probably more than you wanted to know about the 5 columns and the programming that we have. We also have leadership opportunities. We have more service opportunities. We have internship, we have assistantship types of opportunities for our students, and we have our quarterly experiential learning grants for incoming students. Actually, with students, they're awarded to incoming students, but students are able to use these grants for an experiential endeavor during their first 3 years at Mary Baldwin. So it is really phenomenal. Our students who have been awarded these grants so far have used them primarily for study abroad. We have students using them for May-term study abroad. We have had some students who have been very creative with their awards. One of our students worked with our econ professor, Dr. Diedick, this past summer, on basically a business project, and they analyzed local business data for with a focus on women and women in business. And it was really a fantastic opportunity for her. She would not have been able to stay in touch with and manage the workload of that project if she had not had the grant. She's an econ major, and it was just really a phenomenal opportunity for her. I've had another student who built a photography studio in her home with her grant. The student is a biology major, or has been, she may change, they do that. But she built a photography studio so that, because that's one of her passions. And the grant is meant to allow, it doesn't go towards tuition, it doesn't go towards books, it's meant to allow students an opportunity to do something that they would not otherwise have an opportunity to do, that enriches their experience and their time here at Mary Baldwin and with the Women's College. So that's really a phenomenal. I could give you a dozen amazing examples of what these students are doing with these grants, but that's a phenomenal opportunity for them as well. Let's see. What questions do you have for me, or comments, or ideas? Angela, you are on, you're still muted.
Okay, there. Am I on?
Yes.
Okay. How many students in the College for Women? Like, how many freshmen do you have, and do you have good retention? Those are my.
We do have good retention. That's a great question. We average between, I would say, 75, 80, and just over 100 new students each year. That includes the VWIL core. And so that includes the PEG program, which is, I don't know, maybe 12 to 15 the last few years. VWIL will start around 50. Caitlyn, does that sound? I've started around 50 to 60, and then after the first week, about 10 or 15 of those students will sort of sort of trickle away, maybe not that many, we'll sort of trickle away. VWIL winds up with between, I would say, 45 to 50
Okay.
after their outdoor, what's it called? Their wilderness experience where students, oh, I want to be a part of the women's college, but maybe this part of it is not for me. And then we have usually between 40 to 60. I mean, it really has varied tremendously as we've shifted our marketing to focus on women interested in leadership. And yeah, so between 40 to 60 straight women's college, no other program affiliation. And then we have women who come into university college and transition over into the women's college during the first semester. They see what we're doing and they like it, and they want to be a part of the community, so they come over. So we usually pick up about 10 more, maybe 15 during the first semester.
So, Carrie, I kind of anticipated this question too, if I may be so bold to interrupt. And I thought I would look at the enrollment report that comes out, and deposits, Angela, for the Mary Baldwin College for Women are up this year by over 10% for the incoming class of 20 that's coming into the fall. So that's our overall enrollment picture is looking good. And the trajectory for the College for Women looks exceptionally good going into this fall cycle.
Good.
Very
Thanks.
exciting. Thank you, Chuck, for that. Retention's also high. So retention is high in the majority of our affinity-based programs on campus have higher retention rates than the average student who does not come in associated with a group. BWIL has a tremendously high retention rate. The Women's College has a high retention rate. Ida B. Wells has one of the highest retention rates on campus, very high, and that's women as well. Athletes have a pretty high retention rate. So when a student comes in and they are associated with a program that has its own structure and its own, really, honestly, its own leadership, that focuses on the goals of that particular program, the retention rates are higher.
Good.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense. I have a question about, I was always very involved with student government, which at the time there was just one, because it was just one college. Can you explain a little bit about how that works and how it intersects with the other aspects of the university?
Yeah. Well, that is a fabulous question. And that question was put to our students the year before we accepted men. And our student government, as well as the rest of the student body, said we don't want two separate student governments. We don't want our new male students to feel excluded, and we don't want to separate. We don't want that kind of exclusivity.
Us versus them.
What's that?
Us versus them.
Yeah. And so they didn't. We have the one student government. What we did develop our second year of the new women's college programming is what senators for the women's college. So we have, the SGA is still primarily women because the campus is still primarily women. But we have representative students from the women's college sitting on the student senate to be able to deliver news and information about our programming and what we're doing and where we're headed and what our conversations are, that sort of thing, to the larger student body and the other SGA representatives. So that's a new development that we hadn't talked about before. We wondered if the students were going to want to have two separate governments. We thought they might, but they chose not to.
I like that you gave them the ownership of that decision.
I think that's always been a really important value of Mary Baldwin generally, that it is student-centered and it is student-led. You know, our student government, our honor code, our judicial code, everything is based on the student voice and the student experience. And they were very clear. Caitlyn, do you remember those conversations?
Yes, I remember very, very many conversations we had about this, about wanting to make sure that even though it was different for all of us and it wasn't something we were necessarily used to, and for I know a lot of my classmates, it's not something we came to Mary Baldwin for. We just wanted to make sure that they felt included. So we talked about it nonstop.
Yeah. And I'll tell you that one of the most endearing and beautiful things that I saw during our transition, really, were the students who were completely and totally against having men on campus spend time, sit next to in class, see in the dining hall, spend time with our new men on campus and sort of adopt them as little brothers. It was amazing.
Nice.
I don't know a single anti-co-ed student who was still anti-co-ed by the end of that first semester, not even the first year, but the first semester.
That's
And
great.
they protected each other and they watched out for these boys. And it was just, it's going to make me tear up a little bit. It was just a beautiful thing to see these women. One of the things that we did very intentionally was communicate with those women on campus who made it very clear that they did not want me, that this was going to ruin their women's college experience. And we brought them in and we had focus groups and we said, listen, you have an opportunity to educate people. You have an opportunity to learn about the male perspective and to talk to them about the women's perspective. You wouldn't otherwise have this opportunity. So I understand completely how you feel and how you could be disappointed about this. And this is not what you signed up for, but you have an opportunity here that you wouldn't otherwise have. And they adapted and adopted that sort of mindset. And we saw it play itself out very clearly throughout that first year. My experience with my sons was part of the reason that I took that approach with them. And I mentioned a little bit earlier, what shifted my perspective was I was being first year director for something or other, and I was in a computer lab and incoming students were registering for classes. And there was a male student, one of our first male students in there. This boy had a full beard. He had a mustache, a beard. He was big, he was manly. And I was like, did my job. I taught the students and their families how to look at the pre-registration information and how to register for their classes. And I was looking at that bearded man in my computer lab that was built for women. I was side-eyeing him and his family, and his mom stood up at the end of the session I had with them, and she reached up and she touched his face. I've told a few people this story. She touched his face like this. And I thought, oh my God, that's my son. And at the time, my oldest son was only about 11 or 12. But, you know, that's when you kind of start thinking about what it's going to be like when they leave and they go, and you hope that someone's going to be there to take care of them the way that you want to take care of them and that sort of thing. So that moment where that mama reached up and touched that boy's face, just it changed my perspective entirely. And it said, you know what, this is good for us. This is something that we need to do. And this is an opportunity. This is the kind of opportunity that it's challenge. It's the kind of opportunity that I value tremendously in higher education, and with an emphasis on women, to be able to reach men in a way that we weren't able to before. So I know not everyone agrees with me on that, but that is my perspective and that is my experience, and I'll always hold that very, very dear. And he knows now. I know that student well now, and he knows that he's the one who made it click in my mind that this is what we need to do. I don't know if his mama knows, but he knows.
I think it's interesting, and I'm thankful for the college maintaining the women's college, because in my era, the reason I went to a women's college was to understand that women can be friends and still move forward in leadership and can be more than what they want to do and don't have to be in competition with the guys. Whole different time, whole different time. And the empowerment of Mary Baldwin for me, personally, academically, and ultimately professionally, is something that I call on every day. The beauty of what I'm hearing is 50 years later, we have all the guys as a part of that education, and that's cool. I'm thankful for that. It was also interesting during the quote unquote transition period that the older alums wanted our school to stay alive and to succeed and move forward.
Yep.
And it was fascinating, especially when you talk about compassionate change makers, these words. It was interesting to watch that whole dynamic going on. And I will say again, I'm so proud of what Mary Baldwin is and what it's doing. But I'm also thankful they have Peanut Week and they do the big sister. Because again, to me, that makes women special and that makes us different. And unlike some women that want to be equal to, I like the difference between men and women. And I love the fact that we can be close friends as well as go out and work. And I'm thankful for you all working that. I have to say, in my 45 years experience, the two worst bosses I've had have been females. Honest to God, because of the competitiveness and because if I knew what I was doing, then they were intimidated by me. And I mean, one boss took every program I ever created and called them her own and moved on. So that is my fear. When you understand and have people, the women know they can be friends as well as work with one another. God bless you. I love it. Go on.
And Carrie, I just want to add in, building on what Liz said, you know, I was physically in the room at the Women's Leadership Symposium so that we could connect alumni virtually. You know, I was at the tech table and taking questions, and it was fascinating to me to watch men on our campus as enthralled in the information and the speakers and the sessions as the women who were there, right? And so just to that point, I think in a moment in time where inclusivity and understanding and empathy of other diverse populations, someone other than who you look like and who you are, that understanding and connectivity to humanity is just so crucial to where we're going just in our world, right? And so I really appreciated seeing that in action. I've heard, you know, you've been a great partner to work with, but it was not tangible to me the way in which the women's college and the programs that you do are open, and that there is that dialogue for advocates of the male gender. It was just really cool to watch that in person. And I want to share that with all of you because you couldn't physically be here, but it was really neat to witness.
Yeah, thank you. And that's something, Adrienne, I appreciate that so much. That's something that male involvement is something that I talk about a lot when I give out information on the Women's College. And I think people might not necessarily want to hear that. They don't think about including men in the Women's College initiatives and endeavors, but I think it's so important and so valuable. And to see a man on campus wearing our MBCW t-shirt and not saying my girlfriend's an MBCW, but saying I'm a women's college advocate, I'm a feminist, I am this, I do this, I help with this. Our soccer team wants to develop a brother-sister program with us, which, I mean, who would have, that's amazing. And we're going to do it. The students, the Mary Baldwin students, the women's college students want to be big sisters to little brothers, and they want to be little sisters to big brothers. So, you know, that the availability and the accessibility of that kind of mentorship with other women, as well as with men who are their peers, is you can't beat that. It's fantastic. So thanks, Adrienne.
Well, I just have a couple of things to say that. So I live west of here, and I was driving over one morning to the office, and as I crested the hill, I saw the soccer team practicing, and I thought, pay attention to the road, because I almost drove off the road. I was so excited to see them playing. I mean, so I called one of my friends who's an alumni. I said, you should have been here this morning. I didn't hit a car, but I wish you could have seen the interaction. It was incredible. So fast forward to Adrienne and I walked down on a snow day to the dining hall. What were we thinking? But it was wonderful because as we were walking down, we finally got down to the dining hall, the terrace there the students, both male and female, were just interacting and just having a grand time in the snow and talking and interacting. And we were thinking, oh gosh, will they help us back up? I mean, they were just, it was just a Kodak moment. And my third thing that I will remember this my whole life, going to the cafe and seeing some of the sports students interaction, both male and female, and they were at a table that probably would have had 4 people. Well, there must have been 14. They were all clustered around, visiting and talking and enjoying lunch. And once again, I said, this was a Kodak moment. I mean, it was just, I think about that and I think, oh, that was just, it just melts my heart. So, and whenever I go back to school again, I want Carey Usher to be there for me too. Because you really do bring such wonderful everything to this campus.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love you guys. Thank you. It is. It's beautiful. It's Mary Baldwin. We have the same values and the same approach to those values and the same love for our campus and loyalty to our school and to each other. And it's Mary Baldwin.
Okay, great. Well, if there's anyone who has any final questions for Carey, you are welcome. You don't have to come on video. If you want to pop it in the chat room, we're happy to address those there. Or if anyone has any final things that they want to share with Carey or ask, we'll give just one last call for questions before we get ready to wrap up. I always feel like I'm a judge or an officiant of some kind, and hearing none, we shall, like at a board meeting. Well, great. Well, I can definitely attest to this and say that Carey is indeed accessible. And so if you have a question, if there's something that you just want to offline about, you're welcome to email the alumni account, which is alumni@marybaldwin.edu. And you can put in the subject line, question for Dr. Usher, and we'll make sure to get that over and to get any questions or last minute thoughts answered and back to you. And so I hope that you all will join me just in giving Dr. Usher a huge round of applause. She is truly amazing. For those of you whom I haven't met, I joined our team as the executive director of Alumni Engagement back in November of 2019. And I had a handful of people who made sure to talk to me first. And Carey was indeed among those. And so we immediately dove in on trying to combine the Women's Leadership Symposium with Homecoming. And then when that didn't work out because of the pandemic, what are we doing in October to continue on? And she's just an amazing asset to this university, to this institution, and a wealth of historical knowledge, and our students really connect with her. So Carey, you have my sincere appreciation for coming here and sharing your perspectives in the history of the Mary Baldwin College for Women tonight with our alumni. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Just one more.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Adrienne. It was absolutely my pleasure. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime you like. And yeah, I can answer questions. I can tell you more. Give me your ideas. If you have programming ideas, if there's something that your class did that you would like to see us bring back to campus, then let me know. We love, the students love the traditions. They want to know everything about all of the traditions.
So like Apple Day and things like that, is that a campus-wide thing? So okay, yeah. So some of those traditions, they're still going, and Apple Day's way different than even when I was a student.
Yep.
And I like the difference. I like what they're doing now.
How about sophomore show? Has anybody ever talked about the sophomore show? See, I would think the theater group we got, that it would be really fun to have sophomores, male and female, get together and do something. Because trust me, when we did Fiorello, it was mostly male and we were all females. It was a little bit interesting. So I'm saying that sophomore show was such an absolutely collaborative, bring them together. I mean, it was a wonderful class builder. And I would think with the guys and the gals. The only story I would tell you also is that my 80-year-old sister and I walked into the coffee shop one time when one of the teams, and it has to, I'm trying to remember which one. They're from Iceland. Who is it? But this marvelous looking group of guys is sitting at the table drinking coffee. And Susan looked at me and she said, "How were they here when we were here?" So I just know that there's some of us that appreciate that. And truly, I mean, Carey, you're amazing. And God bless you for keeping the women alive in our college. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
And I'll just say this final thing, that if there are opportunities, Carey and I are going to be working together very closely. There's lots of room for volunteer opportunities, for service opportunities. We have a career and mentoring committee that is helping us to establish some more formalized ways that alumni can connect with our students, and our alumni can connect with our female students within the College for Women. So please just make sure that the alumni office has your updated email and that we can stay in touch with you, because there's something new coming out every month. And we're so excited to have partnerships like the one with Dr. Usher that allow us to bring those really meaningful connections to our alumni. And if you have not already registered, please make sure to join us at Homecoming. So very much like this, we've taken the theme is from our beloved Mary Baldwin hymn. Friendship, honor, sorrow, laughter are the ways by which we learn. And there's never been a more important time to continue lifelong learning. So it is open to everyone. You do not have to be celebrating a reunion this year. All of our programs and sessions are free. You can walk away with nuggets of information. You can even figure out how to cook a delicious dish with us. So head over to our alumni website, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you online June 4th, 5th, and 6th. And as always, Carey, thank you so much for being with us tonight and adding one more stellar program to the virtual lineup for alumni. Thanks everyone, and have just a wonderful evening. Be well and stay healthy.